Hi there, welcome to the video, and hello again to return viewers. You catch me here on the very last day of January 2026. Where did the month go? Where's the year going? Seems like the last 3 or so weeks have been a blur since work started up again and I was submerged in all that type of thing. So it's early morning on the 31st, and I'm just going to run through the books which I have acquired over the last month, which is January 2026, of course. Not a huge amount this month. Like I said in the last video, my money and attention have been on other things recently, so the book buying had to calm down a little perhaps. So first of all, back at the beginning of the month, I went to what has seemed to become my annual trip over to Lyttelton. Now, Lyttelton is the town which is a port which serves the city of Christchurch. It is basically to the south of Christchurch, over the hill, but most people go there through a road tunnel which was opened in the 1960s. And so I found myself over in Lyttelton, and it's always a bit of a shock having to walk up a hill to get to the main street. In that main street, the weekly market day was going on, so they had the street blocked off and stalls and caravans and what have you selling all sorts of food and goods. And I went there. I wasn't feeling too great that day, so I didn't stay very long, but I did make a point of visiting the London Bookshop, which is the premier bookseller selling establishment in that town, and they always have a great selection of books. They seem to get a lot of travellers there swapping books and what have you. And the book that I picked up from there is this one, Say Nothing, by Patrick Radden Keefe. This came out in the 2018-2019 time period, and it is very well reviewed, very popular, very praised, and it is a book ostensibly about a kidnapping and murder in Northern Ireland in 1972, but it broadens out to encompass the reasons and wherewithal and the facts behind the troubles, as they call them, in Northern Ireland from the 60s through to the 90s, late 90s. And this looks at the personalities involved, the politics, the social situation, and then zooms back in on the actual murder and kidnapping. And like I said, everyone who read this says it's great. I'm a bit late to the story getting to it, and of course it has been since turned into a television series on one of the major streaming platforms. So that is Say Nothing. Recently I've been going down a bit of a rabbit hole on various things via the wonderful site Reddit, and one of those things was Matchbox Cars. Now, as a child I had a fairly extensive collection of Matchbox Cars, and I found out that my father was a bit of a secret Matchbox car collector as well, who kept his collection hidden from us kids. And yeah, I found a few communities on Reddit over the last 6 months or so which are kind of madly obsessed with the cars and the history of them and what have you, and this kind of triggered my memories and interest in the subject, so I've become a bit interested in them again. I haven't really bought any except for one. This is one of the current Matchbox cars. It's an Aston Martin. They're kind of like have been owned by now by the same people as who produce Hot Wheels, the famous American toy cars, and kind of like they've positioned themselves. Hot Wheels is like the down market, and Matchbox cars are now like the up market. And there's several varieties, series of Matchbox cars, collectors and moving parts and what have you. And you know, it's kind of fascinating to see how they represent real cars in that tiny form. They're a little cheaper and nastier than I remember them. There's more plastic to them, and of course they're no longer made in the UK. They weren't made in the UK since the 1980s. I remember when they switched to, I think, the city of Macau, and that was a bit of controversy when I was young, and it's kind of gone all over the place since then. Anyway, Matchbox cars kind of fascinate me. I don't know why. There's childhood nostalgia angle and just the history of toys and what have you in the 20th century. Anyhow, so one of the major figures in the world of Matchbox car collecting and knowledge is a gentleman called Charlie Mack, who lives in the United States, and he has one of the, I think he's got some sort of record as the largest collection of any discrete item, and I think he's got like 42,000 Matchbox cars or something ridiculous. And there is an excellent documentary on him and his obsession with Matchbox cars on YouTube, and that was kind of like my gateway into the world of it as well, after finding the Reddit subreddits. And I discovered that Charlie Mack had written what's seen as one of the definitive books on Matchbox car collecting, or guides to the cars himself, and that is this, the Encyclopedia of Matchbox Cars. And unfortunately, it has like a distinct cut-off date of, it goes from 1947 to 2001. A lot has happened in the world of Matchbox Cars since then, of course, but I guess you have to stop somewhere when you're writing a book like this. And this is the revised 4th edition, so it's been around for a while. And this one is about 10 years old, or even older anyway. So basically it's kind of like 2 parts. The first part is a glorious set of pictures of an example of pretty much every Matchbox car produced in the period discussed, and some of the variations, some of the weird and wacky things that Matchbox did try to hold on to their market in the late 60s, early 70s. Cars like Hot Wheels came along, which was back then a competitor, and Matchbox felt they had to go a little wild and crazy to kind of match what the Americans were doing. So there's exaggerated cars with ridiculous features and what have you, and that kind of went on for a while. And anyway, this book kind of chronicles the whole story and gives you an example. The first part is, like I said, the photographs, which are just something to drool over while reading, with a whole lot of nostalgia. You know, you can point out, I had that one, but it was a different colour. I had that one, I had that one, I had that one. And the second part of the book is some type of price guide for all the vehicles, cars, toys, and various variations of them. I'm sure that the information in that part is probably way out of date since this book was published. So anyway, that is Charlie Mack's Encyclopedia of Matchbox Toys. Okay, a little later in the month, I forgot to say I got that one via Amazon. A little later in the month, I ventured out to Bishopdale Mall, where Dove Books and Books Plus are located. In Books Plus, which is like their overflow store where books are cheaper, I found this book here, The Ransomeware Hunting Team by Renee Dudley and Daniel Golden. It's journalism about cybercrime, as you call it, and those who fight cybercrime. I haven't really had a good look at this book, but it seems very extensive and follows some, you know, it's one of those non-fiction studies that kind of zooms in on a couple of personalities involved in the activity, and kind of it goes out to explain the whole thing from there on. So that is The Ransomeware Hunting Team, a band of misfits in probable crusades to save the world from cybercrime, is the byline. Okay, so that was at Books Plus. And in Dove Books itself, I didn't have a lot of money to spend at the time. There's always a lot of tempting treats in there, but one I found is this one, Levi Tidhar's The Escapement, which is some type of surreal fantasy western thing. Turns out that I actually had a copy of this as an ebook in some type of bundle that I bought a long time ago, I think from Humble Bundle or one of those type of sites. But you know, a physical book is always good to get, and as you can hear, there is a siren going at the fire station just down the road, so hopefully that is not annoying you too much. Anyway, there we go, a fire engine just went past. And so yeah, this is a fantasy what have you book by this author who seems to churn out a lot of books in that kind of genre. So that is The Escapement, obviously a watchmaking reference. Okay, last of all, a couple of weeks ago now, I went to the location of Northlands Mall, which I hadn't been there for about a decade. One of the earlier malls in Christchurch, and it's looking very spick and span now. There's a good selection of shops there. There's the big box store of the warehouse at one end, and there's a really nice food court type place in the other end. It's not usual that I like malls, but I went there early one Sunday, and it was quite a nice experience for a change. I mean, not like the other crazy malls that are around. Anyway, in that big box store, the warehouse, I was just looking around, and I found a copy of this, the launch of Rocket Lab, and this was going very cheap because it is damaged. I'm not sure how well you can see this. This corner up there is buckled and bent, and all the pages at that part is damaged. Now, this is a book I wanted to get hold of over the Christmas period when it was first published and marketed. It is basically a coffee table book which tells the story of Rocket Lab, which New Zealanders claim as their own, and even though it is now pretty much a US funded and directed company which still launches from New Zealand, Basically, it put New Zealand on the map as a space power, basically, as you might call it, and with the Electron launch vehicles, which are still going strong. And they're hoping to launch their next generation vehicle, the medium lift Neutron, this year, although they're having a few troubles with it at the moment. Anyway, like I said, this is pretty much a coffee table book. It's written by Peter Griffin, which I think is more of a business correspondent, and it also has an introduction by now Sir Peter Beck, the basically CEO, driving force of Rocket Lab, and his youth and upbringing and his tinkering with machines is often folded into the story of Rocket Lab, and it is in this book as well. It's gorgeously laid out and illustrated with lovely photos of rockets, as you can imagine, and all sorts of photos of gorgeous techno porn, basically, with diagrams and all sorts of photographs of the people involved. Yeah, so there is the Neutron, which they hope to launch this year, a single stage to orbit recoverable rocket. Well, that would kind of be a game changer if they can get it to work. Anyway, so like I said, it's a gorgeous coffee table book. It's a bit hard to actually handle the stylus and read like that in front of you. It's one of those ones you sit down on a table, preferably a coffee table, of course. So anyway, that is the launch of Rocket Lab. And that pretty much winds up the book haul for the month of January. Like I said, there wasn't too many. I do have another book on the way from Blackwell's in London, which has not reached here in time, and that is the final laundry series book from Charlie Strauss, or Strauss as you might call him, the Regicide Report, which kind of brings the mainline laundry series books to an end, the final book of Mr. Howard and his wife. Hopefully that's a good one. Apparently it's a bit of a chunkster, the book. I bought the hardcover. I wasn't going to wait for a paperback for 6 months to find out what happens. So yeah, that one should be arriving soon as well, so I'll probably have that in the next book haul. Okay, so I think that's it. I'll go back to my lazy Saturday morning, not too much on. I'm actually doing washing at the moment. You might be able to hear that in the background. All right, we'll catch you on the next video. I'm probably going to do a review of a book I read, an ebook of, called I Deliver Parcels in Beijing, which I found strangely fascinating. It's kind of the working experiences of a young Chinese man in modern China. Okay, well, more on that soon. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.